Mike.
Yes.
Your name starts with M.
It is, because we are talking about M games today.
That makes sense.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike.
I'm Nick.
We are the Brothers Murph, and we are continuing our journey through the alphabet, talking about 10 games from each letter that are our very favorites. So this is kind of like a fun exercise in talking about different kinds of games and stuff. Yes. So we've been having a lot of fun going through this. It's really fun to kind of think about, a wide range of games. And today we are in the letter M, so we're kind of right at the middle of the alphabet. So let's just go ahead and hop right into it.
Number 10 is going to be a game called Mystic Paths. Shout out to one of our best friends, Matthew Jude, who turned us on to this game. This game is a word game, a word association game, where basically on the Mystic Paths, this kind of like circular board, there's going to be all these different words out there. And you are then going to be given a card, and that's going to be a path that you need your teammates, because everyone's on the same team, to guess for you. So basically you have to go from here to here to here to over here to over there to there, and these are all going to word to word to word to word to word. And so you then will have cards which have different clues on them, like shiny or da-da-da or this or that. Just different adjectives, different things on them. And you're gonna have to play a couple of these cards out that are basically going to point your teammates to where your character needs to go next. So if I'm on, mustache and I need to get to statue, I might put like shiny, because a lot of statues are shiny. So I put out shiny and people go like, ooh, shiny. But you can see that where I am, there's all these different connections to different words. So you're trying to point them to a specific direction, but not to these other ones. And you're gonna have to put out multiple clues, which essentially are gonna be the next path down the line. It's super, super fun. I really enjoy word association games like that, kind of like code names where you're giving out clues, trying to make it work. But in this game, you can only use the clues that are on the cards in your hand. So sometimes you're like, I don't really have a good one, but I'm gonna have to put down this. And you can also put down a not token that basically says, it is not shiny. And that can also give people some clues. I really, really enjoy this game. It's just, I like word association games, I like co-op games, and this one's just really fun.
Number 9 is Monster Hunter World. This is a game based on a video game, the Monster Hunter video games and stuff, where you are going against these just massive, basically boss battle to boss battle, these giant monsters and stuff, and trying to figure out their sort of sequence of attacks and things so that you can successfully dodge those attacks and get in some attacks of your own and sort of disable parts of the monster and ultimately destroy the monster and gain parts and level up and stuff like that. So this is now a board game adaptation of that very concept, where you are gonna have your hunters and you are gonna go through a bit of story that is kind of a choose your own adventure, going here, going there, gaining resources and things like that, and then ultimately discovering this big monster, which you then have to fight. What's really cool is the way that they have sort of brought the scale of everything to life in this game. The monsters are obviously very large. You are just a little human. And in the game, these giant minis sort of have 4 quadrants to them. They have their front, where their big, jaws are, their sides, the flanks, and then their back end usually has a big wild tail or something like that. And you can actually kind of move around to different quadrants, and when you attack, you are attacking that specific part of the monster. What's really interesting and exciting is that different parts of the monster will provide maybe different levels of defense for the monster. They might have different abilities they can do and things like that, that are all, again, pulled from the video game. And you can actually break the different parts of the monster, which will disable its special effect. Which is really kind of cool. So like how you're kind of circling around that monster, getting to an advantageous position for you. And then also you are seeing that they're gonna be telegraphing basically an attack that they're going to do. That might be an attack where they're gonna do a tail whip or something behind them is a dangerous area, or charge forward or things like that. So you're trying to get into a position that you'll be able to then dodge out of the way, because taking hits from these monsters is not usually good for your life. It will mostly kill you instantly, or very much be very close to killing you instantly. So you need to stay out of the way. And I just really enjoy that. I enjoy the fact that it's really about being really tactical about where you move and how you position in order to avoid those big attacks coming in your way, and then chipping away at this monster, chipping away at this monster. And if you defeat them and break certain body parts and stuff like that, you will get loot out of that, which you can then use to upgrade your equipment. This is a campaign game, and you can even go back and fight the monster again, which will be a harder version of the monster. And so there's just a lot to explore. But I really enjoy the way that they kind of recreate the idea of this big boss battle on a tabletop and really make it feel, again, like the scale and the size of what you're fighting really comes to life for us. So that is Monster Hunter World.
Number 8 is a Reiner Knizia game called Mille Fiori. This game, guys, this could be on here just because it's so dang pretty. This has got this big old board and everyone has these translucent diamond pieces. That's basically going to show where your pieces are on the game. On your turn, what you're gonna do is you're gonna place out a card from your hand, and these cards are going to basically allow you to put out a diamond on some different section of the board. There's a whole bunch of different sections of the board, and every single turn in this game, you are going to be scoring points. And this, kind of like a lot of Reiner Knizia games, especially recently, you kind of want to combo a lot of stuff together. And every single area scores differently. There's an area at the bottom there where you're trying to essentially make pyramids of pieces. There's a spot up on the top left where you're trying to make kind of like a ongoing connective spot of your pieces. There's like trade spots and all these different things. They all work differently, but it's very, very simple. Like most Reiner Knizia games, it's like you go here, you count up your points and you get your points. But every single area is gonna have some kind of rule where it's basically like, once you do this thing, you get to this point in here, you then can take another turn. And there are gonna be some cards laid out at the beginning of the round, and you basically get to take one of those cards and do that action, which then might go into another action and stuff like that. It's just really, really fun. It's simple Reiner Knizia where the rules are easy. It's very, very pretty. The art is great. The pieces are great on the table. It's got such good table presence. And it's just really, really fun. And when you get those combos going, ooh, it's very satisfying.
Number 7 is Miyabi. This is a tile laying game where you are going to be placing out these tiles in a garden. And you're gonna have different garden features that are in these different rows of your garden as you go. And you can basically activate each column one time. So the tiles you're placing will mostly be blank, and then have some amount of features on one of the parts of the tile. So you want to line it up so that the feature itself lines up with a column that you haven't activated yet, because you have to make sure you're kind of moving around that way. But you also want that feature to be in the row that makes sense for it. The stones are along the bottom, for example. The koi fish are on a different row. So you need to kind of be thinking in these different directions. And then it even goes a step further where you can actually build up. If you have tiles, kind of a network of tiles down below, you can stack on top of previously placed tiles, which acts like a point multiplier. So everything on the second level is ×2 of its normal points. Third level will be ×3 and so on. So you are thinking in all these different directions at once, but it's ultimately a fairly simple grab a tile, place a tile kind of game. So I just enjoy how kind of pure and puzzly this tile laying game is. You have these orthogonal shapes you're trying to do. You're trying to, again, build a nice flat base so that you can place stuff over those kind of blank parts of your tiles, because those aren't inherently valuable for you. But if I can build up a base and then put down something on top of that and the feature lines up with everything I need, then I can really make that valuable. So there's just a lot of fun stuff to munch on with Miyabi. It's one that we think is really kind of criminally underrated as well.
Number 6 is a game called Maglev Metro. This is like a futuristic train kind of game, kind of like a subway game with like triple thick boards and everything like that. The pieces, the tiles of the game are so thick. And this is a game where you have like a maglev rail, kind of a magnet rail. And you're basically, it's a pick up and deliver game where you're gonna be picking up various commuters and robots, because it's in the future, and you're trying to deliver them to different spaces. So you are putting out your track. The tracks are really cool because they are these clear hexagonal tiles that will have a rail line of your color. So it looks essentially like a big subway map, which is really, really cool. So when you lay them on top of each other, you can always see everyone's rail lines and where they go, because obviously you can only drive on your own rail lines. and you are picking up passengers and you are trying to drop them off on spaces that they want to go to. You're kind of matching colors to colors. So robots want to go to certain spots, and then commuters want to go to certain other spots. Like, the purple commuters want to go to like the office. The coral commuters want to go to like the artist studio because they're like the artists in town kind of thing. But the cool thing is whenever you drop someone off at a correct location, you actually get to keep that passenger and you get to put them on your board. And your board, how you put your robots and your commuters are going to unlock special abilities, and they're going to unlock scoring. The robots are going to kind of go in the middle of your board, and they're basically going to allow you to beef up the actions of the game, because you can normally only move one. But if you put enough robots down in the move area, now you can start moving 2 or 3. You can only ever pick up 1 passenger, but if you fill out the pickup spot, you then can pick up 2 or 3 passengers in one action. And they basically make your actions way better and way cooler. And the commuter's gonna go down and unlock things for you, and then also unlock scoring for you. I really, really like this game. There's 2 maps in the game, which are slightly different, which are cool. And then there's more map packs. There's a map pack 1, which has all different ones. There's like one in an amusement park and all these like big mechs that you're picking up in another one. It's really cool. I just like the game a lot.
Number 5 is Marrakesh. This is a newer Stefan Feld game, who we are fans of. Enjoy a lot of Stefan Feld games. This one is interesting that you have these different color cylinders, which pertain to, I think, 11 different areas on your board. There's all these different action areas you can take. And on a turn, all the players are gonna select 3 of the 12 colors they have behind their screen, which will be the 3 areas of their board they activate that turn. And once you have all made a selection, you will reveal your little cylinders, and then you're gonna drop them into this tower, and most of them are gonna come out, but some might get held behind. And so once you have everything come out the bottom of the tower, you'll arrange stuff by color and then start drafting those cylinders. Now what's really cool is I could draft, place 3 colors into the tower, but I don't have to take those colors. It probably makes sense to, but maybe another player also put green in when I put green, and now all of a sudden there's 2 greens that I can take, and so I get a better version of the action I'm about to take, because the 3 colors that you select, again, are gonna be the 3 action parts of your board that you activate. And typically, the more you kind of invest in taking the keshis, they're called, of a certain color, the action then that's associated with that color becomes more powerful. So you really kind of want to build up the strength of your actions so that when you go and activate them, you get to do a heck of a lot more than if you've kind of never really taken stuff of a certain color before. It's just feels like it ramps up nicely. It really feels like you get to invest in areas, pull off big turns with lots of combos. There's bonuses all throughout your board that you can gain, so everything kind of feels like you can time it up nicely and really get a reward for what you've just done. And so there's a lot of moments that kind of feel clever in this one that I really enjoy. And I also like that the tower is potentially holding stuff back. So you might drop things in, you're like, oh, those pieces didn't come out now, but they might come out later, which means all of a sudden there's more of these cylinders to draft from than you were expecting. So that little bit of like uncertainty of like what's going to be available in a round really adds a kind of nice, call it random element to the game. So I enjoy that. I have these plans, I'm going to do this thing, but then what everyone else selects color-wise maybe changes my plan, and how do I seize the opportunity that's in front of me versus what I kind of plan to do. It's very interesting and fun. That is Marrakesh.
Number 4 is by that praise be, Phil Walker Harding. Love some Phil Walker Harding. This is gonna be, and Matthew Dunstan, it's not just Phil Walker Harding, Matthew Dunstan as well. And this is gonna be my Shelfie. My Shelfie has got a great gimmick. It's got a great like kind of Connect 4 looking gimmick where you have a 3D shelf. You have a shelf and you're gonna be drafting tiles and you're gonna be dropping them in a Connect 4 style into your shelf. And you're trying to do some set collection, you're trying to put stuff in very specific spots because all the different tiles are gonna have different stuff on them. There's some tiles that are like green that are like board games, there's some that are like cats, there's some that are books, there's some that are other things, and you will have a schematic on everyone will have their own schematic of like, okay, in your shelf right here, you want a blue tile. Over here, you want a pink tile. Right here, you want a green tile. Right here, you want a white tile. And you're trying to put those down, but then you're also trying to make groups of one thing because you want all your books together. You want all your board games kind of together. And so you get points for having groups of things, and then you're also some public objectives that you're kind of racing for. And on the middle of the board are all the tiles, and when you're taking tiles, you're gonna have to take tiles in a line. You can't just grab whatever you want. You're gonna have to take a tile that is available, which means it has an open side, and you're gonna have to take tiles again, kind of in a line, and then you have to drop them all, I believe, in the exact same area, in the exact same kind of column. And so there's a nice little puzzle going on. It's still a very chill game, but it's got this really great gimmick and a nice little puzzle. It's not gonna break your brain, but you do have to think about it. And the more I play my Shelfie, I'm like, man, this game is just so darn charming. It's got a wonderful puzzle, and it's got such a good gimmick, and I just really, really enjoy it.
Number 3 is Mechs versus Minions. This is a cooperative programming game where you are all going to be controlling these mechs, and you are going to be playing out cards onto your little program, which is going to be you controlling your robot that you're driving around as you're trying to fight this kind of horde of minions that are usually kind of rushing down the board, and you're trying to keep areas of the board safe. It is a scenario-based game, so maybe on one scenario you're trying to get to a certain spot, another area you're just sort of just trying to withstand the waves that are coming at you and things like that. This game for us is really just interesting in the way that it works. Programming games to us are really fascinating because the whole thing hinges on, I want to have a plan, but then if something interrupts my plan, my sequence still carries out as if, based on the information I had when I programmed it. And so I think the idea is funny, where if you get turned to the right because of some sort of damage, and now you're like shooting off this way and then stomping this way, and you're moving in ways that don't make sense anymore. And as you take damage, it's gonna kind of mess with your program and stuff. They always just make me laugh. It's just like, oh, this whole thing has just gone poorly. How do I, on the next round, kind of get myself fixed and get moving the right way so I can then kind of be a useful member of the team. What's really cool is there are all sorts of cards that you can put into your program that kind of stay there and become like a general thing that you do, but you have the ability to kind of play cards on top of similar type cards to get a stronger version of an action. Like a certain attack, for example, if you have 2 or 3 cards stacked, is going to do a much bigger version of that attack. So I like the investment in certain parts of your program. I like that you take damage and maybe makes it so you turn right every round. So now I need to kind of fix up my program in a way that kind of accounts for that or try to repair that. And then just the quality of the game was made by Riot Games, and they just were able to make a top-notch production that is just really fun to play with in all the scenarios to boot. So that is Mechs vs. Minions.
Number 2 is gonna be essentially a series of games at this point. This is gonna be My City / My City Roll and Build / My Island. This is all 3 of these are legacy games by the good Dr. Reiner Knizia. And they are legacy games, but they're very approachable legacy games. Mike actually just finished a campaign of My Island. I have not played My Island yet, so I'm specifically talking about My City because that's the one I've played, but My Island apparently is very, very fun. But My City is going to be a legacy game where you are building out kind of a city with these polyomino tiles, but then every single game there's going to be new rules, new things, tiles you unlock, stickers you're putting out on your board. But this game, again, is a lot of legacy games tend to be like a Gloomhaven, like humongous games. This game is like usually, at least normally, is like 30 to 35 bucks at like a Barnes & Noble. It's like really, really affordable, and it's very bite-sized. There will be different chapters, and each chapter is 3 games long, but each game is pretty short. Like, you're kind of meant to play an entire chapter in one sitting, and you'll play like 1, 2, 3 games, and then that's that chapter, and then 1, 2, 3 games in the next chapter, kind of in the next session. So it's a very accessible legacy game, and it's Reiner Knizia, so the rules are not super crazy, and then as they get more complicated, you're going along through the game, so it's easier to kind of grok those rules, but it's so, so good. It's a polyomino tile game, And I'm obviously not going to talk a ton about what happens in the game because I don't want to spoil it in case you haven't played it. But the game does change a lot throughout the game. You know, as you go through the different, I think 12 chapters, it changes a whole ton. And my island apparently is very, very good. It's got kind of like hex tiles now. And Mike said that stuff changes a lot. And then there's the My City roll and build, which is like a roll and write version of My City that you can play, I think, with 6 people. And is also really, really good. And so you're just like, man, you're really crushing it with these My City, My Island games. I just love the fact that I love big, massive legacy games, but I like that there are now becoming more and more of these kind of like more accessible, more bite-sized legacy games that kind of just like a kind of more casual audience can get into. My City, My Island, My City Roll and Write, they're all great.
Number 1 is Mythic Mischief. This is an abstract chess-like game where you are various monster factions. You'll choose one per game, werewolves, for example, or something like that. And you are in a school, a magical school, and you are basically sneaking around the library after hours. And you are trying to, you know, get upgraded actions and things like that, and you're trying to make it so that your opponent's pieces get moved in front of the Tome Keeper. The Tome Keeper is kind of walking down through the library on a sort of pre-planned path. They're trying to go to these 3 different kind of checkpoints, if you will, and they're going to take the shortest route possible to do that. And you're trying to make sure that your opponents get moved in their way, so they happen to stumble across like this student who's, you know, out of, you know, in the library after hours, and get them in trouble. That's what's going to score you points. So you are trying to make sure your people are out of the way, your opponents are in the way of the Tome Keeper, and you can do all these things to mitigate the environment. Every character is unique in that they all have the ability to move and then move the Tome Keeper. That's always the same. But you have the ability to move your opponent's pieces, and you have the ability to move the bookshelves that are laid out on the board, and those are all different depending on the faction that you are. The way they interact with the environment is different. There's also, you know, your ultimate ability, your kind of super special ability that is going to be different based on the character you are. And that for us is what's really exciting, is that you have this kind of abstract chess-like game where you're maneuvering around on the board, and you could in theory spend a long time investing in just one faction type. And then once you feel like you got really good at that, there's all these other factions to explore. And so there's just a ton of content really in the box. And it's a game that's kind of easy to learn, difficult to master. The production level is just insane. The art is really cute. I love the theme of like, you know, the different archetypes of like high school and stuff are present, but in this monster world. And it just makes me laugh. It's just like one of the better you know, world building kind of games, and creates a really interesting chess-like puzzle. So that is Mythic Mischief.
So that was our top 10 games that start with the letter M. Again, this has been a really, really fun list to do. It's just cool. It's just, you get to talk about so many different games.
I know.
It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Like we don't get to talk about like Maglev Metro that much.
Yeah,
it's
some
like,
of the
okay,
lesser
cool.
mentioned ones. Yeah,
it's just really, really nice. So again, follow along with us if you haven't already. Go to put your top 10 M games. People have been doing this the whole time with us. It's been really, really fun to see. And we'll be back with letter N.